Okay, welcome to our third installment of the Comerica Bank and Shofner Consulting Small Business Legal Concerns. Today, we're talking about being a kind employer. This presentation is a little bit less about technical legal compliance and more about what your small business can do to treat your employees well, and by treating them well and following the applicable federal, state, and local employment laws, we can reduce the risk of employment claims and things that could happen as a result of those to your small business. A little bit about me. My name is Kelsey Shofner. My firm is focused on startup and growing businesses. I provide business owners with the tools they need to protect their business from a legal perspective. Everything from starting their business to getting contract packages, employment policies, manager trainings and playbooks in place, plus helping manage your intellectual property portfolio. I graduated from law school in 2013 and worked at a small business locally, helping them with contracts, employment, and IP protection. And I have been at Shofner Consulting now for almost a year. And I should have put my dog up, I'm sorry. Just a quick disclaimer, as a reminder, all information I share during this presentation is not legal advice, and this does not form an attorney-client privilege between us. If you do want to reach out to me to talk about engaging in an attorney-client relationship, I have my contact information at the end. So why am I here? Today we are talking because a small business's #1 legal risk is your employees. I like to say people are people. You can't control them. You can only control the environment that you create around them, but people are and will continue to be wild cards. In addition, the employment laws are complicated and not always intuitive. We have federal laws that all employers have to follow. We have state laws that depend on where your employees are located, and then even some local laws, county and city level laws that we have to comply with. And then, like I just said, even if you're following all those laws perfectly, you cannot always control how someone is going to act or react to something that happens in the workplace. So, offense is your best defense. In order to help prevent employee complaints and employee litigation from happening after a termination or some other event, you really want to make sure that you're creating a work environment that's focused on legal compliance. It still surprises me that today, in 2021, how many businesses are not actually following applicable laws. So we have legal compliance. We're giving our employees honest reviews, and we're treating them with grace and compassion when we do have to go through either a termination or a discipline proceeding. So legal compliance, as I mentioned, we have federal, state, and local laws. The rest of the slide is going to kind of just very briefly touch on some high level what these laws are and who they apply to. But in order to make sure you're following all applicable laws, it's really important to get with an experienced employment and business lawyer to make sure that you are following the laws that apply to your particular business and industry. So the biggest place small businesses in particular get trapped is classifying someone who should be an employee as an independent contractor. So it's really important that upfront, as soon as you start hiring people, you know how you're classifying them. And then with your employees, knowing if they are exempt or not exempt under the overtime laws, and if you're paying them overtime appropriately. All businesses, regardless of industry or size, are going to have OSHA and workplace safety compliance. Obviously, what these regulations say depends greatly on your industry. For me, having a single lawyer legal practice that works out of a small office is going to have significantly different OSHA compliance requirements than a manufacturing company would have, but we still do both have to comply with the OSHA laws. HIPAA and privacy, these are huge. Even if you're not in the medical space, it's possible that you have information on your employees that's protected by HIPAA. Same with privacy. Almost every business nowadays has an email marketing list, and you need to make sure you're protecting that information correctly. You also need to make sure that you're protecting your employees' sensitive information correctly. For better or worse, we have to have our employees' social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, email, and we need to be protecting that information correctly. Another big issue right now is anti-harassment and non-discrimination. Not only are we being kind employers and treating people correctly, but there are a number of state and federal laws I'm sorry, I think my internet just cut out. But as I was saying, there are a number of state and federal laws that speak to different classes of people who may fall under non-discrimination laws. And then we also need to make sure that our managers know how to interact with employees and how employees should be interacting with each other to not violate any harassment, anti-harassment laws. And then we have the FMLA and the ADA. These are two related but different laws. Just on a very, very basic level, all employers have ADA compliance issues, and it's important to know what those issues are. Not all employers are going to have to deal with FMLA, but a lot do. General rule of thumb, once you have at least 50 employees, you need to at least start looking into if the FMLA applies to you. So let's focus a little bit on harassment and discrimination. These are big deals, not just big deals because they've been in the news lately, but these laws have existed for decades. And the fact that we're even still talking about them, in my opinion, is a little bit sad, but for better or for worse, this is where we are. And this is, in my opinion, the biggest downfall for small businesses. Either small businesses don't know these laws apply to them, they don't know how to follow them, or they kind of get into that trap of, we know everyone, we work with friends and family, so we don't really need to pay that much attention because everyone likes each other here. But it's really easy to get into a situation where either the owner or a manager turns out is treating someone differently than the rest of the employees, and that one person is going to feel signaled out, and they're going to start digging into if they fall under one of these protected classes and can sue for discrimination. It happens both after termination, but it also can happen during employment if someone feels that they were skipped over for a promotion, not given the raise they deserve, or being treated differently. They can and will bring these claims. So to deal with them, it's very important to have manager trainings. I focus on managers because managers are representing your business. You are liable for what your managers do, but honestly, we should be having these trainings for everyone. But focus on managers, both their trainings and their accountability. As I mentioned, your managers represent your business. They are the face of your business to your other employees, who are then the face of your business to your customers. Now, we know nowadays almost every business has mission statements, values, and policies. And those mission statements and values are great. A lot of times they're put on the website, they're used in marketing material. But if we're not actually following them, either with our clients or especially with our employees, what good are they doing? Actions really do speak louder than words here. I think one of the biggest issues is with the family and working mothers. Obviously, this is an issue that affects me personally, but I'll say that a lot of companies like to talk about how well they treat new parents, but they don't. Their managers are making snide comments about people taking protected family leave or pushing assignments away. And it's just something to really be on top of what your managers are doing and how they are treating the employees that they manage. One way to help prevent this, in addition to our trainings, is to set up an easy process for reporting issues. If an employee thinks it's an issue, then it's an issue. And it should be dealt with by the company, whether that involves bringing in an investigator or a lawyer, or just having a neutral party within the company taking the report seriously is really important. You need to do something with the reports you get, and you need to make it easy for reports to be made. There really is no easier way to be sued than to have someone feel like they are being mistreated. So reviews and discipline. Again, especially with small businesses, I see that giving reviews and disciplining employees is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for all of us or for most of us, but at a large company, at least you have the buffer of, well, this is what the handbook says I have to do. We have 700 managers and they're all doing the same thing. But at a small business where maybe you just have a handful of managers, or maybe it's you, the owner operator of this business, it's hard to talk to those employees that are running your baby for you. But it's vitally important that no matter what the size of your business, you are doing written reviews at least annually. More frequently is great. I recognize the time for that is not always there, but at the very least, have a process for annual reviews. They need to be in writing. They need to be documented. We are building a book of evidence in our employees' employment folders about how they have acted and how they're doing their work. We need, in addition to these reviews, we need to be given consistent constructive feedback. If someone is not performing the way you want them to perform in their position, you need to tell them and you need to help them get better, because we hear this all the time, that someone is let go from a job and the reason they're given is performance. And that person says, but I've never been told my performance is bad. Now, maybe they're, I don't want to say delusional, but maybe they just have an idea in their head of how good they are at their job and they're not really. But if you've never told them that, you've never given them a review that says in writing, you're really not performing up to par in these areas, and here's how we need you to improve. You've never sent them an email that says, hey, I really don't like how that went down. We need to talk about this offline. There's no documented evidence that that person hasn't been performing their job up to par. How can you terminate them for performance? And then using counseling and PIPs, the performance improvement plans as needed. I'm not always a huge fan of formal PIP processes. I think sometimes they can kind of handcuff employers when they really do need to let someone go on short notice. However, again, if you have an employee that you see potential in, and there's just some area where they're really not getting it, using either some sort of counseling form or a PIP form where you've written down, here's what's happening, here's what needs to change, and if it doesn't change, here's what the consequence is going to be, having the employee sign it, then at least you've documented that you're working with them on this issue. And it kind of puts it back on the employee that they are not performing up to par. And this leads into never blindsiding someone with a termination for cause. If you're terminating due to layoff, either position elimination, budget cuts, or just some other reason that you have to get rid of that particular position and it has nothing to do with the person, that's one thing. You don't necessarily want to let your employers know that your business is having cash flow issues. I get that. But if you're going to terminate someone for cause, they need to know. Whether it's a violation of policy, you need to tell them you have violated this policy. The policy needs to say what happens if they violate the policy. This is why we have written policies that employees read and sign that they've read them, so that it can say, if you're caught stealing, it's a one strike policy and you're going to get terminated immediately. Or there's if you get a counseling form more than 2 times, you are subject to termination. Doesn't mean you have to, but you've at least put them on notice. And then again, we just get into the employee is just not performing the way you want them to perform, and you need to find someone else. They need to know it's coming. Again, some people are just not going to believe it, but you need to have gone through the process of reviews, feedback, counseling, to where when that termination happens, that person at least can, on reflection, go, okay, I understand they weren't happy with my performance. They tried to help, but I just couldn't do it. This wasn't the job for me. Just using the ye olde termination for performance does not work if it's not documented. Why? People who get mad sue. People who think they were treated unfairly sue. People who think they were discriminated against sue. And people who think they were amazing at their job and got fired in spite of that sue. So again, your defense is your offense, getting in front of these issues, making sure that your managers are treating your employees fairly and kindly so that they don't get mad, making sure your managers are not treating employees differently. Don't let the one XYZ minority, be it female, different religion, different ethnicity, different sexual orientation, feel like they're not getting the good assignments or the good clients or the ability to get commissions or bonuses or tips, whatever it is in your industry. Don't let them think they're getting treated unfairly. Don't discriminate, but also don't let people think they're being discriminated against. Again, treating someone differently is going to make them think it's intentional and that they're being discriminated against. And don't let people think they're amazing at their jobs if they're not. If they're not doing a good job, let them know, help them improve before you let them go. So our takeaways from this presentation are, we want to create an environment that people want to work in. We want to make sure that our managers treat people well, our employees know what is harassment and to stay away from it. We want to make sure that we are helping our employees improve their performance and do the best they can for your business. We want to make sure we're complying with all laws. That really is basic, but this presentation is about what's going beyond that. So make sure you're complying with all laws. You've got to know what the laws are that apply to your business and follow them. Do not let harassment happen in your workplace. Do not let discrimination happen in your workplace. Make sure you are doing reviews and counseling employees, and make sure that your employees know what is coming. If you have employees and you feel like maybe you haven't gotten those policies or procedures in place, or that you're worried about potential issues, I'm always here for consults. I can do legal risk audits for existing businesses or strategy sessions for new businesses on how to get your employment policies in a good place. I do flat rate legal projects, including employment policies, employment procedures, onboarding and offboarding workflows, offer letters, termination agreements, severance packages, and dealing with the Texas Workforce Commission, which we didn't talk about this month, but we will talk about next month. This discussion really was the foundation for that. You've got to have that evidence packet in place before you start dealing with the TWC. And then also for employers that have a number of employees, I offer this monthly in-house counsel subscription service where you have access to me on, and I would say an unrestricted basis. I have some parameters, but basically come to me, email me, call me, we'll talk about these issues so that when you start seeing a potential for an employee to get upset about how they're being treated, you can come to me and we can talk about how to get ahead of the potential issue. And also how to do their reviews and how to do the terminations in a way that help prevent the potential for employment claims. So like I said, next month in April, we're going to be talking about terminations and then the state unemployment insurance, which I think for small businesses can be really scary. You can sign up at Eventbrite. I'll put all of that information on on LinkedIn and also email it out. Again, these are my practice areas, and if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to take them now.
Always concise and informative, Kelsey. We certainly appreciate you continuing to offer these sessions, these lunch and learns. I certainly appreciate the partnership with me from the banking standpoint as well. So again, another very good session that is covering all aspects of business ownership. So well done, and I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. It was my pleasure.
All right. Well, we will put the invite out and look forward to seeing everyone next time.
Sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.